All right. All right. Well, today is our digital nomad day. So please meet Rachel Story. She's a world traveling English teacher and digital nomad. She's originally from Tennessee, but she moved to China in 2010 when she first made that transition to online teaching and has been traveling to over 20 countries ever since. But she's not just a teacher. She's also a blogger with her husband. They run a travel blog called The Grateful Nomads, where they share their experiences and offer tips and advice for other digital nomads looking to create fulfilling location independent lifestyle. So without further ado, here's Rachel, and we're going to have a little conversation about traveling and teaching and just the lifestyle. Hi, Rachel. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really excited. Yeah, I'm good. How are you, David? Thank you so much for having me.
Very good, very good. Just a heads up to everybody out there, we are having a little lag in our conversation, but we'll do our best to mitigate that. So,
I
but
also want to add that I'm in Mexico, and Mexico can be a rather loud place. You could hear construction noise or a rooster or a dog at any moment. So if that happens, I do apologize.
right. Well, right now I'm hearing nothing in your background, which is awesome.
Perfect.
So I know you and I met in Mexico, what, a few years ago when I was first trying to decide whether or not to travel and teach. I was already teaching online,
Mhm.
but I held a little meetup for some traveling teachers while we were there, and got to meet you and your husband. Awesome day at the beach. But for those of them that don't know you at all, how did you get your start in online teaching?
Well, as you said, we moved to China in 2010, but that was before we started teaching online. We taught in person in China from 2010 until 2015. Then we made the transition to teaching English online in 2016 when I found VIP Kid.
Ah, yes, VIP kid. Wonderful while it
Yes.
lasted. It was. It was definitely
It,
wonderful while it lasted.
while it lasted, yes, it was great.
So now, so we did the VIP kid stuff. So then, how is it different now that you're no longer doing VIP kid full time?
Well, while we're still on the subject of VIP Kit, I do actually still have this
Ah,
mouse pad that you guys gave me at the meetup you planned in Playa del Carmen when we hung out on the beach that day because I won
that's
rock, paper, scissors.
that's so
I
cool.
still have
That's
it.
the only thing I still
Um,
travel with is my coffee mug, my big
mm,
thermos.
nice. I think everyone probably still has something from their VIP Kid days. So I'm sure that people are mostly aware now that China banned online tutoring more or less in
More or less.
2021. Yeah, more or less. Uh, and since then, I went, by the time that happened, I was already on a different platform called Lingu, and I'm still on that platform now. And I am also working on being an independent teacher, a teacherpreneur, if you will, and getting students through my own marketing efforts.
Excellent. I That's a big topic is finding students, marketing for your students. I mean, I've got about 15 and once in a while somebody pops off for a couple of months and maybe they might come back or somebody refers their friend. But a lot of teachers are having trouble finding ways to market and finding ways to find students. What avenues are you using right now?
Well, I started off by using LinkedIn, and I did have some success with finding students through LinkedIn because I really prefer teaching adults.
Hmm.
And so, and I also enjoy teaching business English, and so that's why I was using LinkedIn. And I did have some success with that, but it's it's not that easy to connect with people organically on LinkedIn unless you're just constantly posting content. And I just haven't really had time to constantly post content. So I'm taking a little bit of a break from using LinkedIn right now and putting more effort towards using Instagram just because we have an Instagram for our blog that we've been using for a really long time now. And so I'm just more familiar and comfortable on Instagram.
Excellent. Yeah. I thought about using Instagram. I haven't gotten into that for finding students yet. Right now, I'm still sticking with my Chinese students. Sounds like you've branched out to other areas besides just China. Is that right?
Yeah, I haven't had any students from China since VIP Kid ended.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, that seems to be the daunting thing for a lot of teachers that I've talked to, at least, finding they're like, I'm so used to the Chinese students. I'm so used to everybody coming to me or being given to me. And finding the branches into other areas is tricky. I'm sure we could do an entire session on finding students. But what do you like the most about online teaching?
Yeah. Um, what I like the most is the freedom that it gives me. Um, since I started teaching online, it allowed me to become a digital nomad, and I've been able to travel full time really since 2016. And so that freedom is the best part to me. Being able to travel or live wherever I want for as long as I want is really important to me.
That's excellent. So then, what advice would you give to someone first starting out with their career, that trying to become a teacherpreneur?
The best piece of advice that I can offer anyone who is just starting out with teaching English online is to be patient. Because even when I first started with VIP Kid, it took some time to really get a full schedule and regular students. And even with Lingu, the platform I'm teaching regularly with now, took me a month to get my first student. So be patient and trust the process.
Okay, okay. No, I remember, yeah, the same thing with me with VIP Kid. It took probably a month to get a good flow of students. How is Langu different than, obviously you were familiar with VIP Kid beforehand? So how is it really different? Can you tell us more about Langu?
Sure. So VIP Kid is an online language school, basically, is the term that I use to describe it. You've got your profile, of course, but then the platform provides the curriculum. They decide how much you get paid. And in the case of VIP Kid, the parents would choose their teachers, or so that's what we were told. Um, and so Lingu is different because it's an online teacher marketplace. And I call these platforms create a profile platform because that is your introduction to potential students, is your profile. And these platforms are kind of like flea markets for finding a language teacher, if you will. Students sign up for the platform and they're presented with a list of all of the teachers' profiles. A lot of these online teacher marketplaces will have filters that the students can use to try and cut down on the number of profiles presented to them. But one of the biggest ways that it's different is these online teacher marketplaces give you full autonomy as the teacher. I can teach whatever I want. I can set my own rates. And Lingu specifically even allows me to implement my own policies. That's not true of every online teacher marketplace. But at least for Lingu, I have full control over everything, even down to giving them permission to run ads directly to my profile.
Ads. Like what kind of ads? What does that entail?
Well, one of the benefits of the online teacher marketplaces is that the platform, provide the platform. So it's got a virtual classroom, a booking system, payment system, messaging system, all of the systems that you need to conduct your business as a teacher on their platform. And they also provide marketing, so that you don't have to worry about any of that. And one of the ways that Langu does marketing is by running ads directly to specific teachers' profiles.
Interesting. That's an interesting way to do it. Okay.
Hmm.
So, so what would you say? What is your favorite thing about Lingu then?
Probably that I get to have full autonomy, and it's a much smaller platform. Some of the other really big popular online online teacher marketplaces are Preply and italki. Um, Langu only takes 15% of each class. That's what they take in exchange for providing the platform and all of the marketing and advertising. Um, and then I get to decide if I offer a free trial class or not. Whereas Preply, for example, when you have your first class with a student, it's a full 1 hour class and the student pays the full price, but the platform keeps 100% of that. And then they take 30% of each class. So that's probably my first favorite thing about Lingu. The other thing I like is that they're trying really hard to work with companies to get English classes for their employees. So it's more business, professional English, which I do really enjoy teaching.
Okay, very cool. And so you're a digital nomad. You've been so since what, 2016? So
Yep.
that's a lot of years. That's a lot of years. Do you live solely off of your teaching income, or how does it work for you?
No, that's only a piece of our income. Our blog actually brings in a little bit of income, which helps. It's not a huge amount, but it's better than nothing. And I travel together with my husband, Sasha. He also teaches English online for Book Nook, Tutor Gigs, and Lingu. He's not so interested in doing it independently. He is also a freelance writer. And so that is another stream of income that we have. So no, we don't live solely on our teaching income, but it is the biggest chunk of our income.
Yeah, I hear that a lot. I mean, even as us as teachers, we don't live solely off the teaching income. We did for quite a while, actually. While we were a VIP kid, it was solely teaching income. And even for like maybe the first year or two, year or so after VIP kid, it was solely still teaching income. And it's slowly become other streams as we've gone. Because I've noticed that a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of travelers, digital nomads, they need more than one stream to keep things going, especially for the
Right.
lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah. No, exactly. And also because that gives you a bit of a safety net. Like having diversified income streams is a lot better than like having all of your eggs in one basket. I mean, even when VIP Kid was our main source of income, it still wasn't the only one, which is why when it went away overnight, we were still okay.
Definitely. So, since you've been traveling for so long, I'm sure you've got some awesome stories and probably some cringe stories too. What would you say is your number one story that involves because you were teaching there type situation?
Oh, um, well, I am struggling to think of something really crazy or interesting right off the top of my head. I can share probably my favorite travel experience that I was able to have as a result of teaching
Okay.
online. It doesn't really it's not directly about teaching online, but recently we were traveling in Patagonia, the Argentina side of Patagonia. For those who don't know, Patagonia is a region at the bottom of South America that is shared by both Chile and Argentina. And a big goal, bucket list goal of mine that I had way back when we were living in China about 10 years ago was to travel to the southernmost place in the world, which is Ushuaia, Argentina, and hang out with penguins. And I finally got the opportunity to do that just in February, not even 2 months ago.
Yeah, that looked amazing. I saw some of your photos online about that. The place just looks amazing. That's our goal, but to be there but we're gonna be there, I think like Christmas is our goal.
Okay, cool.
So
That's a
because we're
good time to
slowly
be
going
there
down.
too, because that's the
Yeah,
start of their summer.
that's the start of the summer. Yep. You can start taking the cruises over in November through March if we wanted to go across, which we do. But
Mhm.
yeah. My son is really looking forward to seeing penguins.
It is the coolest thing I've ever done. And I've been, skydiving and bungee jumping. I've camped on the Great Wall of China. Hanging out with penguins is definitely up there in my best travel experiences ever.
Did you work at all while you were there? Or did you take the time off?
Oh, no, no, no. That was vacation. That was vacation. I didn't do any teaching while we were in Patagonia. I did other work, like on the blog and another big project that I've been working on, but I didn't do any teaching.
Okay. And I know when I first talked to you guys, you originally told me you started doing a lot of this because you love to travel and go to concerts.
Yep.
And this was a real big chance for you guys to see all the concerts and go to basically not miss a concert, so to speak. Is that still a thing for y'all?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Sasha and I met at a music festival, and uh, our days when we were dating was just following the band Fish around. So yes, that is a big, big part of our lifestyle and still one of the main reasons why we do what we do.
Definitely. You can stay flexible. You can see all that the concerts, do everything. Probably connect with some of the same people at some of those concerts as well.
Well, that's one of the biggest reasons why we keep doing it because it's way more than just the music. There's an entire community that's been created through the kind of music that we like and the kind of bands that we like to go see. And there are certainly people that we only see at those concerts and music festivals. So it's a big reunion of sorts.
Yeah. And I've noticed that a lot of digital nomads have different ways of handling kind of the isolation you have from traveling all the time.
Mhm.
Thankfully, you've got Sasha, and I've got my family. But there's also times where you're going to want other kinds of interactions. So how do you deal with that as a traveler?
That's a really interesting question because, I think probably one of the biggest downfalls of digital nomad life can be the loneliness, especially if you're very social and really enjoy hanging out with people. And back when we were backpackers, before we were working online, we would always stay in hostels. And so it's really easy to meet people when you're staying in hostels. But once we moved to teaching online, we needed a more private space and started doing mostly Airbnbs. So one of the ways, at least like while we're on the road for combating loneliness, is doing free walking tours. We found that that's a really great way to meet other travelers who are also looking for people to hang out with. Um, Finding digital nomad events or meetups is always a great way to meet other people and be social. Or if you can't stay in a hostel, you can at least check their calendar of events to see if they have any meetups or events or anything like that. Selena is a digital nomad hotel that has a lot of different events and things where you could go to meet people. And those events are even popular for locals. We've met a lot of locals through Selena events. So those are kind of the top three ways that we remain social on the road. But then in terms of like keeping in touch with friends and family back home, we try to go back at least once a year.
Once a year? Okay, yeah. I found that that seems to be a thing too for a lot of nomads as well. Trying to get back at least. Um, how did the whole pandemic affect you then?
Right, right. We had to slow way down, way down. Um, Prior to the pandemic, we were constantly on the road, go, 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 nonstop movement, constant travel. And when the pandemic came along, we were in Medellin, Colombia, and they had a super strict lockdown. So we ended up taking a humanitarian flight back to the US. So then we were in the US for several months, and towards the end of 2020, we came here to Puerto Vallarta. And prior to the pandemic, we would spend 6 months of the year here in Puerto Vallarta and then be on the road for the other six. We did that in 2017, 2018, and 2019. But then in 2020, we just came here and got a place and stayed home for the most part. Um, pre place here, but we'd still travel around to other parts of Mexico and still try to visit new places. We didn't do any of that in 2020. In 2021, things kind of started to lift a little bit, and we did a lot of traveling around the US. And then finally in 2022, things started to lift even more, and I got to go to Europe for the first time. We did a 6-week trip to Portugal, Spain, and Italy. But even after that, we just went back to the US and we're just there until finally we were able to go to Argentina at the beginning of this year. So the short answer to your question is that the pandemic slowed us way down and forced us to spend a lot of time in the US.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I couldn't imagine. We had to spend a little bit of time in the US, but we got out as quick as we could because, it was just crazy. And we wanted to, it's expensive,
Yeah,
it's
that
just
too. It's
crazy,
super
crazy and
expensive. Yeah.
expensive.
Yep.
So, how have you noticed that traveling has changed since things have started to open back up again?
Um, I guess I've noticed that people are kind of more mindful about travel in general.
Hmm.
Basically just that they want to do it.
Yeah.
So a lot of places are busier and more crowded than they were before, and everything's more expensive now. The pandemic created a lot of new digital nomads, and so even Puerto Vallarta now is more expensive than it used to be, and it's harder to find a reasonably priced place to live just because the word got out. And when we first came here in 2017, we were two of a very, very limited number of digital nomads. Now there's a whole lot of us here. So I would say that, yeah, more people are traveling because they can. They're staying for longer. Um, yeah, that's probably the biggest difference that I've noticed.
You sound like you're in favor of a home base rather than just to constantly move, 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 move. Does that sum that up right?
Yeah, I'm kind of impressed with your ability to infer that. Yeah, as we get older, it is becoming a bit more of a desire to have more of a home base because since we left China, we have not had a place that's like ours. Even when we are in the US, we're staying with family. We don't have our own place anywhere still. So at the moment, we are still constantly on the go and always looking for places to live. But I'm in my late 30s now and getting to a point where I would just like to have a place that's ours that we can go back to between trips and know that we always have a place to go and recharge.
Yeah, and since right now it sounds like you don't have a same house or same apartment that you come back to in Puerto Vallarta, but you come back to the same town, which is awesome, I think. Is it hard to find a new place every time?
Well, one of the reasons why we would come here every year prior to the pandemic was because we did have a place. It wasn't ours, but it was an Airbnb where we just got to know the owners really well. They really liked us, we really liked them, and we could come, during the low season when there was less of a demand from people to be here and just be able to take that place for 6 months. And but then they sold it. And so that is no longer an option, unfortunately. And everything else has just gotten kind of overpriced, in my opinion, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I still love Puerto Vallarta. It's still an amazing, beautiful place. And we have a lot of great friends here, as a result of spending so much time here over the last 6 years now.
Cool. Yeah. Well, you told me about like your best travel experience so far. What about your worst? Have you had any like bad luck going places?
Um, fortunately, we haven't had anything like major that was like really bad, aside from kind of getting locked down in Colombia at the start of the pandemic. Um, Anything else is just kind of like small stuff, not really like that significant at the end of the day. Um, I guess I can talk about one of our recent travel days. We try really hard to avoid paying for checked luggage,
Hmm.
because we do a lot of traveling and our bags are carry-on size, but we uh we always bring too much stuff. So, so we have too much stuff currently, and even though the bags are carry-on size, they don't always necessarily fit when they're
Yeah.
stuffed to the brim. And so we always try to just get to the gate. Um, and recently we were going from Panama City to Mexico City, and we had everything packed up perfectly. And, we even had to, like, I had to put some stuff in Sasha's bag, and I had to put some of his stuff in my bag to make it all work. And it was fine until Sasha went to, like, zip up his computer bag, and one of the zippers broke, which eliminated an entire pocket in that
Uh-huh.
backpack, which really it doesn't sound like a big deal. I get that. But when it's 5 o'clock in the morning, you haven't had a lot of sleep, and then that happens and you have to run out the door to catch your flight, it's a bit frustrating. And then we finally got to Panama City, and then there were just like some really just more embarrassing, not so great things that happened. Like we tried to go to a restaurant. They had a wait. It was a restaurant we really wanted to go to with our one night in Panama City. We were waiting and they came and told us that their water wasn't working. And so they weren't accepting any more tables until they got their water fixed. We had this issue at another restaurant recently where we arrived and they said we have no water, but then seated us anyways. And it was really not a great dining experience. And so we decided if anyone ever tells us that again, we're leaving. We're not eating there. And that's what happened. So we went to leave. I was trying to talk to the hostess and say, thank you anyways, we're gonna go. And I slid right off the booth and didn't get my feet under me and just fell right down. And it probably looked a lot worse than it actually was. The guy next to me was like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" The hostess is like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And Sasha's like, "What are you doing, Rachel?" I was like, "Can everyone just stop?
Oh yeah.
Stop bringing all this attention to me. I'm fine." So, again, not a big deal, just kind of bruised my pride. We finally found a brewery, and got a table in there. I asked to taste one of their beers. They brought it in a tasting glass. When they came back to take our order, our waiter picked up the tasting glass and kind of fumbled it and tried to catch it, but instead of catching it, he like hit it way up in the air like a tennis ball, and it came down and whacked Sasha in the head and fell on the ground and smashed. It's funny now, but at the like in that moment, like that all happened in a span of like 12 hours. I just started calling it Alexander and the Terrible, No Good, Horrible, Very Bad Day. You know that children's book?
I
Because
do know
Sasha's
that.
real name is Alexander.
Yep. All
So
eyes
it's
on
not,
you.
it's not the worst travel experience that we've ever had, but it was one of the more embarrassing day and frustrating days that we've had recently.
Yeah, I could imagine. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take that advice though. If I hear one of the restaurants around here, because we're in Ecuador now, they said they're out of water. I'm gonna take that as a sign also. But
Yes, do
how
not eat there. It will not be a pleasant experience.
how about travel preparations for people that are looking to get into this lifestyle? I know we have our own expectations on like because we need a good internet and we want this and we have a kid, so we want to make sure that we're around this stuff. And how about you all? What are your travel expectations? Like, do you have a guideline that you look for where you when you go somewhere?
Um, I wouldn't say that we have like a strict set of things that we look for in our accommodation. Just separate workspaces, because we're often teaching at the same time. Um, we often we pretty much always use Airbnb, and so we always try to book with superhosts because at least if something does go wrong, someone who's considered a superhost is going to be more helpful. I can give you a really great example of this. When we first arrived in Argentina, I am convinced that the place we stayed had bed bugs because I've unfortunately stayed in places that have bed bugs before. It's been a long time, but these bites that I was waking up with every day looked like bed bug bites. And so I told the host, and at first they didn't do anything about it or seem to be taking it seriously. So I contacted Airbnb, and that's when they did finally take it seriously. And the host, turned out to own the unit right next door to the place we were staying in. And he's like, those people are moving out in 2 or 3 days, and you can just move in there for the rest of your stay for no extra charge. And that was actually a perfect solution. That place didn't have bed bugs, and he was really nice about it, and problem solved. But I feel like a host who was newer or like didn't have super host status would not have been as helpful.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Super hosts are awesome.
yep, Superhost, fast Wi-Fi, in, an area where we can like walk to buy groceries or, plenty of restaurants and things like that within walking distance. And we also kind of go for, if we're spending more time in a city, we really enjoy nightlife. So we try to spend time in places that have a reputation for having a good nightlife.
Yes. And so with that, then, what would you say is your average work week like?
Well, this really depends on, where we're traveling, uh, what season of life we're in, and, it changes week to week. So right now, in this current season of life, I've had some other big projects that I've been working on. So I've only been teaching about 10 hours a week, and then so that way I have more time for these other projects, but you know, we teach slash work on other things in the morning, afternoon, and then we try to keep our evenings free so we can go out to dinner or hang out with friends if we're in a place that we know people.
And do you have any other tips for people getting ready to transition into this digital nomad life?
Yes, my number one tip for becoming a digital nomad is learn how to be adaptable because anything can change at any time and you never know. So it's always good to have a plan B and C. And like, having things suddenly and abruptly change is never nice. It's never fun. It's never enjoyable, but it's a lot easier if you can just, not freak out about it, kind of keep your cool, go with the flow, and have another plan or at least another idea of, a backup plan.
Very good advice. All right. And is there anything else other than obviously the unexpected nature of traveling that you can say is like another challenge that people should be on the lookout for?
Well, we were talking about this earlier. My biggest challenge with digital nomad life has always been loneliness. Even though we have each other, we're both really social people and enjoy hanging out with friends and meeting new people. So, I mentioned free walking tours are a great way to meet people, finding meetups and things like that. Um, just always find ways to be meeting new people and spending time with new people. And the other big tip that I have is maintain relationships with people back home, your friends and family, because most people, no fault of their own, this isn't a bad thing, but like most people are just kind of like out of sight, out of mind. And when you leave a place that you've always lived, your friends and family, their lives don't change. Their lives are the same as they've always been, and they're busy. They're going about their routines, and you're no longer there. So it's really up to you to maintain those relationships and put that effort into it because you can't really expect them to.
I, I agree with that. Yeah, you definitely have to maintain your relationships. How do you do that? Do you have specific software? Do you just have a phone number that you can say? Or I mean, when you travel, I mean, you're changing your number all the time, right?
Well, no, we've had the same US phone numbers now since uh, for several years now, since 2017 or 2018, I think. Um, there have been times where we've paused them while we were traveling. And in those instances, we just use WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or Instagram or even just email. But I'm always reaching out to friends and family back home if I read an article that I think they might like, or even just keeping up with them on social media, commenting on their posts and things like that. Um, those are the main ways that I try to maintain my relationships.
Cool, cool. All right. And you have a special promotion that you are going to give out to the attendees, right?
Yes, I have a freebie. It's an ebook guide called How to Travel the World as an Online English Teacher. It introduces the 3 ways to teach English online. It also talks about how to get certified to teach English online and if you even need to, and then how to transition to digital nomad lifestyle and create a lifestyle that's both sustainable and fulfilling.
That sounds great. So I'll have a link to that down and below here as well for people, so they can go ahead and access that. Is there anything special they need to do to access it besides just click the link or?
Click the link, enter your name and email address, and then it'll be sent straight to your inbox. And I do have one other promotion, I suppose you could call it, that I would like to tell people about. I have been working with a company called Bridge Education to help them create a new program for teacherpreneurs. It hasn't been announced yet. Hopefully, it will get announced later this month. Actually, by the time people are listening to this, it very well may have been announced. I hope so. But if anyone is interested in learning how to be a teacherpreneur, keep an eye on Bridge TEFL. They also make TEFL certificates. That's where I got my TEFL certificate from, as well as Sasha. And in the last several years, they've created a whole slew of what they call micro credential courses that focuses on something specific, like business English, teaching IELTS test prep or TOEFL test prep or grammar even. And so this is another bigger program that's getting added to their catalog, and I'm really excited about it.
All right, definitely. So I guess yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that as well. So that's very cool. All right. Well, do you have any parting words for everybody today?
Parting words. I'll just reiterate a few things that I said. When you're transitioning to the digital nomad lifestyle, learn how to be adaptable. Anything can change at any moment in time. And when you are first beginning to teach English online, it can take some time to start getting regular students. Just try and be patient. Don't get discouraged. I know that's way easier said than done, but trust me on this. It's going to be fine. You just have to be patient and trust the process.
Excellent advice. Well, thank you, Rachel. I'm sure everybody's got some questions of their own. You probably find them in the Tutor Resource Facebook group. There are going to probably be some comments in there. But otherwise, it was great talking to you, and I hope we talk to you again soon.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.